Welcome to the first episode of Straight Outta Gabriola. I'm your host, Ken Gurr. Now, in case you didn't play the promo trailer for this podcast, this series is all about life and the culture and the diverse cast of characters that you'll meet living here on Gabriola Island in British Columbia, out on Canada's west coast. Now, we're going to be posting a new episode about every 3 weeks or so, kind of island time. There'll be conversations and music and rambles along the beaches and some soundscape experiments even. Kind of a mixed bag. To start things off, you're going to join me on a visit to longtime Gabriolan Dinah D's music studio. Dinah is the co-founder and the leader of the Canadian multi-award-winning children's entertainment group, the Kerplunks. She and longtime bandmates Aaron Cadwallader, Phil Whipper, and the newest member, Jocelyn, also known as JoJo Hallett, are all accomplished musicians and multi-instrumentalists, and their music and style, let's just say it's the antidote to those Aussie nightmares, the Wiggles, or, God forbid, Barney. Now, you can check them out on the Kerplunks.com, and Dinah D, she is the kind of person that I think perfectly exemplifies an islander and the islander way of life. I think from all the way from the European settlers and First Nations before that to the hippie migrations to all of these West Coast islands in the 1960s and 70s, what you see here and what Dinah has is that positive and determined spirit, starting from scratch, carving out a life close to the land and finding creative ways to make a living. She's an active community volunteer, and let me tell you, she really knows how to throw a party. I better get going to her place. She and her partner, Trevor Gear, have converted over a fairly neglected piece of land into an extremely productive garden they've nicknamed the Fun Farm. Okay, so that's enough. I better get going. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm just on. Oh, here I'm at the Fun Farm, going up to Dinah's studio. And there's the chickens. Hey, girls. Oh, and boy. How you guys doing? And I just got to head up. I'm running a bit late. Oh, there's the ducks, I think. Are they over there? Hey, ducks. Hi, gang. How you doing? All right. See you later. Okay, I better run. Getting distracted. I better get up there right now. All right, here we go.
Hey, come on in.
Hi, Hannah.
Hey, Ken.
How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really great.
Good. I'm glad I caught you. I thought we'd come in and have a little chat.
Welcome to my little studio.
I love the little studio. I remember I haven't seen it since it was just being built, and now it's all totally decked out. You're snug in the forest here.
Yep, tucked way back.
Yeah, and you got your instruments up, and everything is set up comfy the way you want it, and also a bunch of memories and things. Like, tell me how why you decided to set it up the way you did.
Well, let's see. So I think the biggest thing for me is I play so many different instruments, not professionally,
right?
But that's how all the different sounds get into all the albums I do. So I have all these different, there's the guitar, and the mandolin is over there, and the banjo, and I've got this tenor guitar here, and then this ukulele. And these are my main tools. That's for all the strings, right? And I've got all the chimes and glockenspiels.
The glockenspiel.
And things kind of out ready to go. And then everything that I'm not currently playing goes up on the loft. So the loft was really important to throw that in there. I got to get the trombone up there. I'm not playing that right now.
Right,
so,
yeah.
But if I'm writing a line for a song or something, then it's really handy to have a trombone around to be able to blow it, even though rudimentary.
Yeah.
And be able to sort of work out what might work.
But what was your first instrument that you
guitar.
It was guitar.
Well, no, actually, you know what? I always sang, but I also, as a little kid, did the typical piano kind of thing. Right. And I remember doing piano lessons, but I didn't really catch on to it until I went to visit an aunt, and she had a piano in the basement, a very underplayed piano. And I kind of just tucked away down there and was teaching myself a song, and then I had a cousin that was teaching me a song. And so I eventually learned the piano a little bit, and what I learned, I think, from those way early days was how to play without structure because I wasn't really taught. I was just monkeying about. And from that moment on, I think I just carried on with everything, monkeying about, taking nothing really seriously.
Yeah.
Which leads to like having a hobby of each of these instruments, but really only the upright bass is my professional. Like I can just get up with anybody and play by ear. I can't do that with any of the other things that are in this room except for bass. So that's kind of the only
and maybe the glockenspiel, who knows?
That's tough. They're harder than everything else. So that's the one I'm struggling with right now. Lullaby release party, because when we recorded the glockenspiel line bit by bit, and I didn't have to just go and actually play it like comprehensively through a whole song and not mess up the lead singer, Aaron. In this case, he'll be singing the song. I don't want to mess him up. So I feel like there's a lot more memory work involved in relearning the Glock line. Because I never actually played, this is part of being a hobbyist, I never actually played the Glock all the way through in the song. Now I'm actually learning the song now where I didn't really know it before.
Kind of the backwards way into it, you know.
I might have written the song, I co-wrote that particular song with Aaron from the very groundwork up. He sat here where you are in the studio and we wrote the song together, but doesn't mean I know it. It's a funny thing. Anyway.
Just you talking about just being free form and learning stuff like that. Is it in your family too? Do you look back and go, I had a family full of musicians, or did you have old records that you got onto? Because you've got influences in your music always. There's jazz, there's rootsy stuff, right?
Loads of the jazz and blues, like those really early jazz and blues. That influence came from a discovery that I made on a community radio. Like I think it was CHLY way long ago, like 20 years or more ago, where I think somebody was on there playing an old show and they were playing a bunch of those old Prohibition songs about, drinking and sex and trouble and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, these songs are actually really neat, and why don't we know some of these songs? So I learned some of them. I feel like they're sort of part of the Americana canon. Like they're one of those, they're some of the songs I feel like everyone should kind of know them. And they're fun, they're playful, they're silly, and in a way they're sort of like less... what's the right word for that? They're less controlled, and even though it was Prohibition era, they were the way that they said the words without saying the exact what they were trying to talk about was really clever. And we've kind of lost the cleverness in our lyricism these days. Like now it's just "I love you, baby." Okay, well, how can we say that another way? No, I'm just going to say it 13 times in a row, and that's my chord.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, you know what I mean? So a little bit of like part of my songwriting is the nuance, and does that line I'm saying might have two different meanings, and that person sitting on this side of the audience probably thought of that one meaning, and this person over here probably thought of a totally different meaning. So I try to think about that with my lyrics. So that's my influence for that stuff. But my dad's sisters, there's many, there's a whole whack of them. My dad has a load of siblings, and they're mostly all women. He has one brother, and they all played instruments in school, but none of them are no professional musicians on either side of my family that I'm aware of, even in like up into my like the fossil age, like my grandparents and older. Like I don't know if any of my fossils were musicians or not, but I know that I sure clued in really fast from a super young age. And my dad was a guitar player, so not professional, but just on his own, and he taught me.
So the love there is there.
So I kind of say my dad is my biggest musical influence in a sense, because it was his record collection that I latched onto. Actually, my mom had really good taste in a few things too. So I latched onto some of her stuff, but for some reason my dad, I just grooved more on his choices, like Stevie Wonder. Like there's nothing, you can't go wrong anywhere in any Stevie Wonder record. There may be a stinker, but most of the rest of it is going to be great. It's so stuff like that. The Beatles, like you see the Beatles are on my wall.
We got
by the
John
famous
and Paul.
Clint McCartney.
Yes, on the island.
Those. So that's
Gabriel
John and Paul are there. Huge influence for me because they are a writing duo. Were a writing duo. There's something beautiful about the two people writing together, which I had the benefit of that for the first 10 years of the Kerplunks. I had the benefit of that too. So I had a really solid writing partner for those years. These two were big inspiration for those years for me. So when that transition was happening, where that writing partner was leaving the project and a new writing partner was coming, which we're still getting our footings in the Lullaby. It's the first one with JoJo's. This is the first album with JoJo, and we're learning how to write together.
And that's how many? What are you at for album sounds? Is it 5 or 6?
1, 2,
for the Kerplunks.
4 party albums. This is our 5th album. We also released a 10-song DVD, but they were all songs off the album, and they were like music video from the albums, you know.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, this is actually our 5th album. Though in many ways it feels like our first album with the new band. It's weird. It's kind of a funny way.
Yeah, because it's a whole new... I mean, that's something... Because how long have the Kerplunks been together now?
13 years.
13 years.
So,
and then founded by you and Tina Jones.
And Tina Jones and I wrote like all the first material and stuff for before that first album because we were teaching a preschool together. So then, which was really fun. It was like a great way to trial all.
Yeah, there you got your trial audience right there.
If parents would show up the next week singing the song, we'd be like, "Okay, put that one on the album." Yeah. And it sort of like was a really nice way to road test all the first 3 albums. And then our 4th album we were going our separate ways artistically. Yeah. So on the 4th album, we did a lot more writing, not really together in the same room, but just getting other influences. Like we did 2 co-writes with parents who had sent us cool song ideas. They'd like, I keep everything on file. So like I keep old cool song ideas that some mom, this one was a mom from Victoria, her name is Jane Hendy, and she wrote this incredible concept of us. She sent us 2 or 3 really cool song ideas. Pants was one of them. And if your mama is a mammal, she gives birth to live babies. It's so brilliant. And it's just like she wrote that song and we transposed it into a key that would work for Tina, who sang it at that time for that album. So we did work. I began reaching out for co-writers on the 4th album. And then this album, our 5th album, because it was beginning to be written during the transition phase. It's sort of that's sort of the point of this album, is that it's like, it's sort of that transition from this phase of the Kerplunks to the next phase. Yeah,
which is a great way to, mark time. And also, I think, but the thing is with all of that is, I don't know if, people will be listening who are musicians and have get some insight into what's involved. Yeah. But it's a huge amount of work to decide, okay, let's burrow in, let's do another album, let's put this together. I mean, for even this most recent one, like, how many hours would you say from the initial point of, okay, let's start pulling songs together, to the studio, to now, like, what would you say for hours? Like, that's got to take...
Well, okay, so an average album is like a year. So from, like, let's say we go, okay, we've got the moolah in the bank, let's get this going. And we go, all right, we're going to do this. So that's the first stumbling block, is making sure we have the way that I like to do it anyway, is making sure we have the money first. So we do that. Right on, we've saved up enough coins, that's great. And then we begin writing. Well, we write on the road and in and around. Like, there's books of ideas that we kind of call back on when we go into heavy songwriting for an album. So then we write for 2 or 3 months. Then we're in the studio for 2 months to really depends. Sometimes we can stretch it over 6 months, and then comes the whole the part where there's album artwork. My biggest job is producing the albums, like actually sitting in the studio for every moment that every track is being written and mixing it all down. That's my biggest job. But then my next biggest job is in getting it out the door to the manufacturer. By the time it's there, the album artwork is done, all the audio is done, all the like digital imprinting that needs to happen onto the CD is done, so that when people put it into their player, the right information comes out. If one of our Lullaby album songs ends up on the radio in Denmark, then we get some little tiny royalty somewhere down the line.
Good, that's one thing. So, that's one thing I want to talk to you about a little bit later in this too, is that whole the business side of it for you, because I mean this has been, I mean it's exceptional to see, most bands and groups, I mean they come and go. It's like Gossamer, they're there, and you think these guys are really talented, or this band is really going to go places, and then they're gone. And here you are, you've held this together, and there's a business side to it. There's a creative side to it that you've just kind of hung on to. But but before we get to that, to do a little intro into and play a song of the new album, which by the time this comes out, it'll already be out. You're coming up to the big launch party, right, next Friday. But tell us what we're going to listen to.
Okay, so this song fully ties in the co-writer concept that I was just talking about. Sort of why John and Paul are my inspiration. So this song was co-written with someone who's always been a huge Kerplunks fan, and he has a studio that he said, if you ever want to record, and I thought this is a great opportunity, because we always record in the same studio, we get that same sound. Let's try recording in another studio and see if we get a more gentle lullaby sound, because this is a lullaby album. So we tried for a few different studios and popped around a little around Vancouver Island and some of the other islands. It was really fun. So this song is called The Well, and it's co-written with Corwin Fox, and he has a music studio called The Hidden Well in Cumberland, in a secret location.
Which is great. I mean, there's even on this island, there's little studios tucked away like yours here, but I know I have others on the island where they do some fantastic work out of there.
And Corwin at the time, I don't think he has it anymore, but he had a huge marimba. Yeah. And so that's what mostly you're hearing in this song. There's marimba and effects, and it's a pretty special song.
All right, so here we go.
The Well.
The Well, Lullabies for Big Eyes, which is now out all over the world.
All over the world.
You can get the CD, you can get a download, right? Okay.
Stream it.
Okay, so The Well, here we go.
Hey, Ken?
Oh,
you fell asleep.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, Dinah. I mean, I think that's the medicine. That's the medicine.
Did that song really put you to sleep?
I think it totally did. That's the lullaby I need. I mean, this is Lullabies for Big Eyes, and it's also for bigger heads too. It could be adult, like it's fully on for us.
Very much so. Yeah, that's sort of the point. The silly title joke, right?
Yeah.
Lullabies for big guys.
Yeah.
Big guys, little guys, big eyes, big. Yeah. So sort of a play on words that it's not just for kids. Like there's no teddy bears in this album. No like boo boo baba kind of like cutesy lullaby stuff. It's all it's all like nothing to really like. There's no real triggers in here that would make anybody of any age go, "Oh, this is not for me." That was sort of the big point of this album, so that there's music for everyone on it.
Which, I mean, you've always gravitated towards. I mean, I know people who've known you for, how many years have you been on the island here now?
This one, 23.
23. So people, and they say, you're an icon on it. People know, everyone knows you. And they say, Dinah is just a big kid. She's a big kid, but she brings the sensibilities of everything into her music. And what I've said in the intro to this episode is that, you're the antidote to the Wiggles, or as a young people's music group. It's your musicians that play music that are just you're digging music, and it shows, and people pick up on that. And I think kids even little kids have a BS meter. They know when people are trying to put one over on them. But I've seen your concerts, both in your, which we'll talk a little bit about your other band projects too, but you guys are always genuine. The band is always genuine. It's just who you are, and it comes across that you're not trying to be all, like you say, all sugar-coaty and ba-ba, boo-boo-ba-ba, right? Yeah, which is dynamite.
We've lost opportunities because we are unwilling to go boo-boo-ba-ba with all of the large Canadian broadcasters in Canada.
Isn't that something?
Because we're unwilling to do the lemon on TV, for example. However, that's not true for radio. The large Canadian broadcasters of Canada have been actually really supportive because of the baseline of musicality of what we do. So because we're super musical, it's also been a big part of our careers that we get to travel around to music festivals. Whereas a lot of other kids entertainers of our generation, they're not actually musicians, so they're not. We're writing really cool music, and it's all super accessible with like everyday themes on riding bikes and whatever. But we're putting it to grooves that are hardcore, like world music grooves, like from all over the world. Because of, I guess, mostly my musical tastes. I listen to lots of stuff from everywhere.
You're everywhere.
So like I'm in a big like soca phase right now. So you can pretty much expect there'll be a big soca kind of something coming.
It's going to show up.
Album. Right. It always shows up, but it takes a few years. But I went on a big study of sort of South African guitar stylings, and that started showing up a few years ago. So it does show up into each of our songs, and probably right. But
now I wanted just to go back to what we were is again like the staying power of the band. Going through the change with a co-founder leaving, bringing in Jocelyn, and away you go with that, and it's just folded in. But I mean, you're the anchor that continues on with this, and both that, and you also do like you're in. I would say in the I'm trying to think the gig economy world that we talk about, and and all the as the the true gig workers of our modern world has always been musicians. I mean, that's the gig. I mean, here you are, you've managed to put this together for quite a long time. That and Contraband Swing Club. So there's the whole business side of it too, that you've plowed away at. And what kind of, what's your sense of how that's gone for you over the last little while? Because I mean, obviously you're still making a living at it. You still want to keep doing it. Yeah.
So I think part of my feelings of success in the project. I mean, every project has its own barometers of success. So some people would say television coverage is a barometer for success. And if you're not on TV, which the Kerplunks are not, then currently, though we can talk about that we've just made a pilot episode for a miniseries, and that could go somewhere. So when I say that the broadcasters haven't been into our stuff, it's in the past up until now. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, part of what makes me proud of what we've done is that we've been super independent through all this, and the industry has crumbled around like all those dudes in suits for so many years, mostly men and mostly not active performing, playing and touring musicians have been puppeteering what goes on in our music industry forever. And these people have a really good business sense, but they don't necessarily have a sense for a groove and an eye for what's up and coming and where the industry is headed. Right, yeah. So something that I think has been a strong power for us is I've always studied kids entertainment ever since I was a kid. So I was an only child. I was raised at the library, basically at the library. So every Fred Penner album, I knew it because the librarians, when I was young enough, would sit me down in front of the record section that was all the kids' music, put out anywhere that they could find, because I was their biggest Like, they loved when I came. They had big orange wing chairs and a record player and big fat white headphones. And I would sit there and flip records all day, spin my own albums all day, all day, all day. While my mom was a potter, like making ceramics.
Yeah.
So my mom was a potter, and she spent her all days right across the road. Yeah. Like, these are olden days where you let your kid walk across the street to the library and spin records for like 6 hours straight. That's what I did. So I studied music. When I exhausted the kids' music, of course, then I moved to other stuff. Discovered things like Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks, and I remember sitting there listening to Miles Davis's On the Corner, like that farthest, outest albums, but it was like one of my faves. Yeah. Mostly because of the cover. I'm a kid. The music is weird. It's coming from everywhere, but I was open to that. So, what was the original question?
Oh, just about getting at music and the business side of it.
So I guess for me in the industry has been being able to keep an eye on where the future is going to be.
Yes.
So I watched all this kids stuff happen. I was sort of, I guess, thanks to the library and my parents' taste in music, raised by funk and jazz and swing and all this other stuff, but also really good quality kids entertainment. Let's face it, like Raffi was excellent. Raffi's my era. He was excellent. Sharon Lois and Bram, although some of the content, like the Skinnamarink, doesn't have a lot, the brain stuff behind it. There's actually some really cool stuff they're doing. And if you listen, like there's something really cool. If we go out in the woods today, like some of those little teddy bear picnic bits and stuff. Like Anne Murray had a kids album, clever. Minor keys. Teddy Bear's Picnic is in a minor key. Yeah. So that's really neat. And so that actually adds the groove and the attraction for me in music. So I figured at one point I was playing adult music, and a friend had actually guided me towards, my friend Ilan. You probably remember Ilan. So Ilan said, Dinah, you need to play kids' music. Kids love you. I'd be hanging out and they're flocking to me, I'm like, kids. And then I was trying to take myself so seriously as an adult musician, and one day I just was like, I write a lot of goofy stuff. Let's just see what happens. So that's what happened. And then met a writing partner who was into kind of like going there into the weird and see what happens. And it worked really well, and had a band of musicians willing to do it. So the business end of things has been me mostly learning all these platforms and stuff, though really awkwardly, and always a few years behind how things are actually happening. But it served me okay because I can kind of keep up on the promo end, or I can keep up on the bookings end, and I can keep up on, obviously tour managing and band managing, but like the real challenge is booking gigs in this current climate.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because that's the thing. I mean, which is great when you have a new album out, a new CD, that you can use that newness and freshness to go out. And I remember we talked once. You said, it's the keeping at it. You have to make a contact, and they say no, not this time. And here you are with known track record, multi-award winners. That you still have to go back and go, okay, well, what about this year? And here we are with a new album. And you have to keep at it. And it's basically, so every year you must look at the calendar and go, I'm starting from zero. You got it. And I have to build gigs, income, sales, off I go. All
in our sort of tour window of what is traditionally sort of March until October, sort of for the beginning of March, end of October is really our big tour window. There's all the summer music festivals, and a lot of the festivals are starting to clue into having kids entertainment, that you can get a lot more family activity if you have like family turnout to your fest, if you have somebody that's dedicated as a kids entertainer. Right. And the higher the quality, the better. So we get a lot of gigs doing that. And then there's actually a little, a part of what we do where people just suddenly from out of nowhere, just like, hey, my child's elementary school teacher recommended that I get you guys, and we've got a family day event in Ontario on this date, and can you make it? And I mean, sometimes the travel's prohibitive for us as a 4-piece band, because not a lot, there's very few other kids entertainment acts that are a large act, because the overhead has to be so high. So that has been the thing that's capped us for popularity as well. I insist on having 4 of us on stage, because I feel like kids need to see the drums. They need to see every bit of that music being created here and now.
Yeah, not just a backing track.
Tracks. Yeah. There's no kid. Nobody is okay with backing tracks. I mean, some people they say that with a little with like. I mean, I think the musicians who use them wish they had a band. That's what I mean. I don't mean like it's not like, I don't mean it's a moral, like you can't do, this is not ever okay. Yeah. I just mean like I believe that the musicians who rely on backing tracks are actually kind of wishing somewhere that, yeah, this is a robot and I can rely on it every single time to be exactly what I need. I kind of wish I had 4 people sitting there doing that. I think
most people think that too.
Yeah, I always feel a little bit fooled when I see a band and I see that someone's got the headphones on and suddenly there's like backup singers and I'm like, darn, they snuck those backing tracks in on me, like live shows. And it's really common now. I always like, I love this band, and then I'm like, darn, they did that backing track thing that I just, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just wanted the other question just about this. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so then, you know, for getting the money in to keep going as a band, to make a living, to do you see, you know, because I mean, it's a world of streaming on Spotify and all of that. Kid markets, youth market, family markets are still, we're buying a CD to give as a gift, and that still is a model that works. Is that in really old customers that, you know, I'm going to get a CD because they don't ever have any access to the internet, so they, you know, still buy CDs, still collect. There's a whole aesthetic, I mean, to the physicality, the liner notes, all of that, lyrics, things that go along with it. But are you kind of got your eye to 5 or 10 years, it's all going to be, people aren't even going to buy CDs? What do you think?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head for the most difficult to harness part of the music industry. And right now, right today, this is the hardest thing. Every musician is reckoning with putting out an actual album versus that's just all digital now. Do we just have download cards to sign? Like what do you, or do we need to just print like little mini posters so that kids buy them for $1 and then we sign them? Like how does that exchange, and how does the value of money or of music continue to be a value beyond emotionality? Because that's really like that's all we do. Is it's sort of like you go to a live show, I guess, unless you have your cell phone running and recording it or whatever you might be doing, there's no, your only takeaway is an album or something, or maybe a picture of the show or something. Like there's so little takeaway. As a visual artist, we
just had a hummingbird come by.
Come by.
Cool. The sun's coming through the studio here, and I think it was thinking that jade plant was, or something, or the orange.
Maybe something orange.
The orange on the card was something to have a little drinky.
Hi, Hummers. Thanks for visiting. December, hey? The West Coast. Yeah. So that's the hardest thing to figure out right now. So the music industry, and I talk to a lot of people about it. Actually, Pants and Mammals, the one before this, is when I first asked my peers in the industry. I reached out to all the big names that are currently working right now, and I said, are you going to make an album this year? Are you making an album next year? When you make an album, are you actually going to make it, like, are you going to make CDs? Or is it all download? And when are we going to be able to decide when, like, what is this going to look like? And everyone was just like, I have no clue what's coming out. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And this is industry wide. We're all like, oh my goodness, records are back. Surprise! Right? Like, are the Kerplunks going to be releasing on vinyl? And so we don't know what the future of it, because CDs are unstable. And CD manufacturing has gone up in price because people are doing less of them. So this might be our last album on CD. Honestly, I don't know, because we're already recording for the next album. I am not sure how we'll release it. So this Lullabies for Big Eyes is obviously, it's on a CD, and the reason it's on a CD is because it's 1 hour and 5 minutes, so it couldn't even fit on a record. It's too much for a record. Originally, I wanted this album to be contiguous. Can't if you're releasing it into the digital, because DJs or just everyone, all the players, have a real hard time with albums such as Dark Side of the Moon. Those albums which are contiguous, which there's no clear marker for when it starts and stops, because most of them were released, a lot of them were released before the digital era, so there were no already digital markers on. So I've learned now how I could have made this album contiguous, but I learned before we got to that final stage and chose not to, because mostly if it was all Kerplunks writing this album, then I would have been fine with it just being contiguous and not care as much. But we have some big name co-writers, and I want to have the fans of Corwin Fox and Mark Atkinson to go and be able to download just the song that they had without any baggage of the song before and after. Do you know what I mean? I want that song to start where it should and end where it should, so that a big fan of Mark's, who loves his mandolin playing and is just like, oh my goodness, what's this one song out of nowhere, might discover our band through that. So the streaming services are more apt to take on a song that has a clear beginning and end. And so these are the business end of the music industry that I'm really researching. So, and I have to, because if you just blindly go around making albums and don't know how you're going to release them, you get a tragedy of thousands of albums sitting around. Like, would you get aside a shed with them? I might have to at some point with all of our discography, right? Like, hey Ken, how do you like my new outhouse with all these CDs?
Shingled with CDs,
my shimmering outhouse or whatever. Like, who knows? I might end up with too many albums on my hands. But right now, I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't say for the next release because I don't know. And the whole thing, I believe, the bottom dropped out of the music industry and the honoring of what we do as a craft and an art when iTunes devalued us so much into 99 cents a track, because it sure as heck costs a lot more than that to make a song. But if you look at really hitting it big, well, great. If you're hitting it huge and there's millions of downloads and it's $1 a song, whoa, cha-ching. But the way it goes as you start filtering down, like my royalty checks are kind of embarrassing. So I just got a $30 SOCAN check. You know, and some people go, whoa, you got $30 from SOCAN, but we're played a lot out there. We're out there a lot. We're on all the streaming services. I'm talking 0.6 of a cent for that time that you, like, there. We could go and say, hey, our fans, put our albums on, put mute on your machine and play them overnight, streaming around and around in circles. And we could get lots more money that way. But I'm not going to ask my fans to do that. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? So, like, there's ways of sort of gaming the system of how to game the current system. I just don't want to ask my fans to go do that. So we keep our integrity. So you can still buy an album or you can download. You have your options. So
and it's part of. I mean, it's part of. I get. It's infused into who you are as a person, and
I want to open the album and I want to look at this artwork,
which is great on the new album. I mean, it's fantastic artwork
from. These last two albums have been Vicky Bowes mixed with Mike Swallow, so they're a couple, and they do. I mean, Gabriel, everybody knows who they are, but maybe elsewhere they don't. So
fine illustrator designers.
They're amazing. So Vicky's just like an excellent. So we worked with them on the last two albums, and this one is spectacular. There's like huge fold out, like a 4-page fold out in there, and it's just like the most amazing design. So Vicky painted it, and we actually took it to the next level. This is JoJo's big plan, which I thought was a great idea, is we have created a stop motion video of Vicky repainting the album design. So we actually created a stop motion. This is all Mikey and Vicky doing this.
Yes.
And
where's
so
that?
There's going to be a video. So,
okay, there is.
And it's going to be online. So you'll be able to search it. You'll look for Lullabies for Big Eyes video on YouTube. I mean, the whole album is an hour and 5 minutes long, and this is only a 20-minute clip from it, so it's only like 4 songs or whatever. Like, it's such a long album, so it's only 4 songs, and so it's just a little taster of the album. So it's also a great promo. Now got a taster, right?
Yeah, and it's nice. It's a nice little quiet thing that brings people in too, which is the other thing in this kind of ADHD world where everything's quick this and that and quick zappy zap. It kind of pulls you in nice and close, right?
Yeah.
You're from the generation too. I mean, we're Friendly Giant and Mr. Dress Up, where everything was close and intimate and slow and gentle, and it's nice to get back to it because everybody seems to have the same kind of level of noise where it's all turned up to 11 and everything's got to be really bright and shiny and multiple takes and angles.
But it's totally insanity, and it's like the whole culture is like we might as well just be a giant coffee bean. Like, there is a short attention span that's a concern. So part of the Kerplunks is we're long attention span people, like we want to have that note last that full length. We want to bring audio-visual that brings back a bit of the sense of when we were kids and things just moved a little slower. Because now, like, you can't even get in on TV if you're not animated. Like, there's no point in being a real person on television these days, really. Because for kids' entertainment, they want all animated, so it's all perfect, predictable, and the mouth moves the same way every single time, and you don't have to do a take with live actors that are so hard to work with.
What are you doing with tell me a bit about the pilot, the TV pilot, and just a little brief, because I know we're getting probably close to time here and you want to get on with your day.
Totally. So Learn, Make, Play is, it's a mini-series. It's going to be, each episode is 20 minutes long, so again, long form. We learn a lot. The first episode, the pilot episode, is all about cake. So we have a song that, like, one of our most popular songs is Cake. We don't hardly play it live, but it's one of our most popular songs when people get the album. They're, wow! Yeah. And that's not on the Lullaby album. That's from Pants and Mammals. So we go and we collect some eggs from a farm, and we go and we get some flour from the bakery that has a mill, and then we come together in a big commercial kitchen with our buddy, the neighbor who is Rick Scott. So we go to his kitchen, in brackets, his quote-unquote kitchen, where we bake a cake. And then we have a music video that's all about cake, and then we sort of round it out. We wake up, we go to sleep, and that's the end of the day. We've just made a cake with our neighbors. And it's really fun. And so each episode is going to be like that. We'll learn something big.
Right now, is a pilot that you're using to pitch to broadcasters? So it's not living on YouTube or anything yet.
And it may not for a long time.
It may not,
Yeah, it might be
you're using
long time. We're shopping it, right? So it's in its very final editing stage. So,
Okay, so just a couple quick more questions. Like, I know you also you have the band, the Contraband Swing Club, and you do work with that. You've got favorite gigs that you do, and so that you're still keeping that work up. You still do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and so this is the question: is that what would you rather have? Would you rather have the free range, feral, crazy kid that's bouncing around in front of the stage and yelling and screaming, or the drunk who's leaning up on the stage and trying to
trying to sing along?
Yeah. Which world would you
If there was a perfect world, which one would it be? I think it would be probably something close to a drunk kid leaning on the stage, because they're the same audience. Like, it's really hard to divide them, because literally a drunk guy misbehaving is so much the same as a kid misbehaving. Like, there's something about alcohol that turns adults into children, and it's really interesting. You know what I mean? Like, the veil is down, and now I'm going to say something honest, where for whatever reason I wouldn't have said it before. So those honest moments are great, because I learn so much. I'm challenged by drunks, obviously. I've had lots of challenging moments where people knock mic stands and they whack into your teeth, or they're dancing and they're swing dancing and they like lose their partner and she falls into you, or like there's all kinds of things that happen with drunk swing band fans that are not great. They're not far off of a kid coming up and yanking on the mic cable, and suddenly the microphone is now out in the audience, and kids have grabbed it and they're wandering around going ba 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 wah wah wah, and it's just hilarious, but it's just as frustrating. So they're actually kind of the same thing. And my real barometer for those characters, that kid that does that and that drunk that does that, is if they're engaged and they're watching, I'm doing my job right. If they've turned around and started walking away, we're now no longer engaging enough. So I actually kind of love those challenging kids and those drunk guys. They're the ones that kind of tell me that I'm on the right path, and I am entertaining to the bare base of where it goes. Because there's going to be the thinky people sitting in a table in the back that have been enjoying it from the moment it started till the end, and they're not even going to tell me that they liked it or not. I'd almost rather have the drunk guy in the front going, "That was an awesome song. Play something good," or whatever. Because that is more like that's the feedback I want. I want constructive criticism. I want that kid to just like be like, "Yeah, this is really interesting." Turn around and walk away and go, "Okay, this song is not working for this audience. Let's end it now, and we'll just play a new one, and then see if that kid turns right back and comes back." So it's fun. It's they're neither and both.
Okay, Dinah. All right, I've got one last question before we go here, and it's to bring in close and let's talk about this.
Okay,
it's that you've carved out this life here on Gabriola. You've lived here for years. Has it been a tough choice? I mean, you made this choice years ago, and you've made a life here versus the career track of most musicians, which would be in the big cities. You could have gone to Vancouver and Toronto. So why? Why did you do it?
Why here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, 23 years ago, I sort of landed here on my feet with, I had a truck with a camper on it that my dad owned, and it broke down in Nanaimo, and I had to get it repaired. So I ended up on Gabriola. It's a place where I can grow my own food. Like, we have our little farm, the Fun Farm.
Right.
So we grow our own food. We have good water, soil, and sunshine here, which not everybody does on Gabriola Island. We know a lot of neighbors that can come and take care of chickens if we're both away entertaining, because, Trev is also an entertainer. So why? I guess it's just sort of a place, and it's just a really nice place. place. Like it just kind of felt like home when I walked on it first.
It keeps you grounded.
And it just keeps me grounded. I come, it's wedged right between, originally why I settled here was because I wanted to have a music career, like in all truth. There is actually like 4 airports right nearby here within a short distance between Comox and Nanaimo. I guess that's sort of the long answer, but the short answer is just my heart kind of settled here somehow. And it's just a really, like, there's a town full of people that I love. And it's just, I feel so welcome when I come back to Gabriel. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm home, you know?
It's awesome, Dinah. Thanks
so much, Ken.
Yeah, thank you.
The song had to rattle on something.
Yeah. That's all right. All right. Great to see you. Okay, now, if it's okay with you, Dinah, I'd like to pick one more song from the album to play us out.
For sure.
Okay. This is it's a one for me that really exudes the place where we live. It kind of feels like a nap on the beach or a long, rainy winter's night slumber. Coming up is the song Daydream on the Kerplunks' new album, Lullabies for Big Eyes. And you can find it on iTunes, CD Baby, fine education in bookstores all over this land as well. So you can download it or you can order the CD itself. And so, dear listener, it's late, and that little chair will be waiting for one of you. The rocking chair for those who like to rock. The big armchair for 2 to curl up in when you come again to our island. I'll close the 2 big front doors and pull up the drawbridge after you're gone. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Daydream, blue sky, soft breeze, sunshine, warm grass, relax, birds fly, lay back, cloud shift, change shape, morphing, skyscape, eyes closed, mind drifts, cast off, sleep shift, dream.